Last week, European leaders agreed on a new €109 billion bailout of Greece, under which private bondholders will be called on to participate for the first time. In addition to the €109 billion in new loans from international lenders, the agreement includes a commitment from Europe's leaders to support Athens until it's able to return to the financial markets. To discuss the benefits and drawbacks of the agreement, I spoke to James Rickards, Senior Managing Director at Tangent Capital Partners.
It's sort of good news and bad news. The good news is that it is resolution, at least for the time being, of the Greek debt crisis. All of the proposals that have happened over the past really year and a half, going all the way back to the winter of 2010 when this first emerged, have been sort of temporary fixes. They have sort of put a lid on the crisis, but not for very long, and the markets did not really believe them. I believe this new solution is different. It is much more substantive. It involves a lot more resources. It's much more permanent, much more credible. So I think that, at least for the time being, we have seen an end to the Greek debt crises. However, it comes at a cost. The cost is that Germany will now act as a de facto finance ministry for all of Europe, or at least all the members of the Euro system, and will be dictating fiscal policy to various members of the Euro system, including Greece. And so the good news is your problem has been solved, but perhaps the bad news is that Germany will be really running the Greek fiscal policy to a great extent on a going-forward basis. But what troubles me is that there was no democratic input. In other words, it's German fait accompli with no elections, no votes, and no real input from the people of Greece.
So would you say that Greece is on its way to recovery?
Greece is on its way to recovery in the short run, but in the longer run, Germany will be in a position to, in effect, to dictate to the Greek economy in terms of industries that it should pursue, winners and losers in the economic sector, the balance between investment and savings or investment and consumption. So I think the new plan is better for Greece in the sense that there's a lot less austerity, more potential for growth. But I don't think anyone in Greece should be under any illusions about the price that has been paid. A lot of sovereignty in terms of fiscal policy has been given up to Germany.
Credit rating agencies Moody's and Fitch have warned that the deal constitutes some kind of a default. Does it really matter if the rating agencies call it a default?
Not really. What matters is, can Greece finance its debt? And we now know the answer to that. The answer is yes, because the European Financial Security Facility. In other words, as and when Greece is able to return to the markets at interest rates that Greece considers, attractive or sustainable, that will be up to Greece. But in the meantime, they don't have to depend on the markets. They can, in effect, finance Greek debt through the European Financial Security Facility, which will extend to Greece the benefit of its borrowing rate. In other words, the EFSF, the European Financial Security Facility, is able to borrow in international markets at rates very close to Germany. It can then take the money and buy Greek debt, but not just buy it at a high rate, but actually extend the benefit of the lower rates to the Greek economy. This will help the Greek budget deficits, will help with their fiscal policies. So that's what's important. The fact that the rating agencies declare a technical default is almost irrelevant. But beginning now, Greece does not have to go to the markets. They can go to the EFSF, and that's really a kind of private deal. So it's made the rating agencies sort of irrelevant. Where it does matter, perhaps, is in the credit default swap market, which is not a debt market, of course. It's a derivatives market. There, the referee is not the rating agencies, but ISDA, the International Swaps and Derivatives Association. They will be making a separate decision this week on whether or not Greece has defaulted for purposes of the credit default swaps. This is highly significant because if you bought protection against a Greek default, if you bought a credit default swap, your ability to collect on your insurance policy depends on what ISDA says, not on what the rating agencies say. So I believe that ISDA will say that Greece is not in default for purposes of credit default swaps, so those will not be triggered. So in effect, Greece is not relying on the open capital markets, it's relying on the European Financial Security Facility. The credit default swap holders are going to find that regardless of what the rating agencies say, ISDA will declare that there has been no default. So life will go on. I think the default issue is pretty much behind Greece at this point.
Will last week's agreements shore up the euro and prevent the Greek